Welcome back to our latest Oakwell Update podcast. Hopefully you have realised by now I am your host Callum Cooper, and as always I'm joined by Holly Tandy.
This evening we will look back to the weekend just past and we'll look ahead to the Yorkshire Derby on Friday night. And we have a couple of special guests joining us today too. First up, Callum, since we last spoke, it's a win at Shrewsbury, followed by an FA Cup first round success. Tell me your thoughts on it all.
Yeah, some great results. Just adding to the positivity at the moment, really. We'll obviously start with Shrewsbury, a potential banana skin game, to be fair. Away from home, obviously Shrewsbury at the time, we're still in the relegation zone, of course, and going into that, there can often be your more difficult games, to be fair. And I think the players and managers touched on that after it, that you've got to make sure your preparation's right, no complacency, all those things, because at that particular time, just around that sort of international break period, Barnsley might not have had the best results as they wanted. They came back, turned a corner, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just prior to that, it was Charlton at home, wasn't it, where we think really we should have got the 3 points and it didn't quite happen.
A frustrating result, but
it was, yes.
What a comeback.
So that then made, obviously, the Shrewsbury game really important, really. And the fact that Barnsley went there and got the business done, to be honest, that's exactly what happened. It was a fantastic performance, really, really sort of calm, composed, managed the game really well. I think that's something that's really important to highlight. I think the first half was fantastic, and we did a lot of good things going forward, and got the goals sort of either side of half time, and there were really good times to score, of course. John Russell with an excellent finish, who's adding goals to his game, or at least adding sort of that attacking output to his game in that sort of higher role that he's been playing, and he's been doing really, really well. And Max Waters as well, the scorer of the second goal, to seal it. Brilliant finish. Max, who's obviously amongst the goals this season. We sort of interviewed him last week as well, and it was interesting to get that in-depth story on him and his story of how he became into football. So it was great to hear that, but it's great to see him supplying on the pitch as well. A bit more of a solo effort, this one, and as equally as an excellent strike off his left foot. And yeah, from there, Barnsley managed the game brilliantly. They really did, and didn't give Shrewsbury a sniff. So it was fantastic performance all round, and a really solid 3 points. And as you say, the FA Cup game on top of that as well, since we've obviously last done the podcast. Really, really strong result. Port Vale, a team that are flying, really, under Darren Moore in League Two. Tipped to obviously go up this season. They were top of the league and absolutely flying. So you go to those in the FA Cup, and how many times do we see a lower league team beating somebody that's above them in the pyramid, in the league pyramid? That happens so often. Barnsley have done that quite a few times. So these things can happen, but thankfully, Barnsley didn't allow that to happen, did they? They got the job done once again. Really professional performance, and great to see. 3-1 scoreline, different goal scorers. Keillor-Dunn adding to his goals in a Barnsley shirt. We had no concerns whatsoever about that happening. And since sort of the goal at Blackpool and getting his second one in a Barnsley shirt, he's really continued to add to that. Scored against Charlton, scored against Port Vale, and the fact that goals are coming from all over the pitch as well, I think, is imperative. Phillips is back in the side after a short spell out with injury. He's got, I think, 6 for the season. You've got Donovan Pines, who's added a couple there. Luca Connell's been scoring. So there's goals from all over the pitch, whether it's a defender, midfielder, or the strikers as well. Stephen Humphries has obviously chipped in along this season. And Max Waters, who we've already mentioned. So that is a sign of a really, really strong team, the ones that can pluck the goals out of anywhere. In tight games, you're going to need goals from set pieces, from the likes of your centre-backs. So, yeah, really, really positive all round, and hopefully it's something that we're building on now going into Friday's game.
I mean, I guess you've kind of answered my next question there. Obviously, some huge improvements. Is there anyone to watch, really, at the moment that you think's really excelling, developing into their role within the club? I know you mentioned Keillor-Dunn, and we've got him on the podcast today. What's your kind of stance on how he's been playing and what he's bringing to the team right now?
Well, in terms of someone that's standing out and highlighting someone, I think it's hard to pinpoint one individual player, to be honest, and that's credit to the run that Barnsley have been on. I mentioned a couple of names there. John Russell, I think, is really flourishing in sort of a different sort of role. So I interviewed him on the pitch after the win at Shrewsbury, and he'd sort of said that it's something that he's done earlier on in his career in sort of like the youth system. So he's used to it, but maybe not something sort of in like the first team setup at a club. So he's getting back into it, but he's doing so well and really impacting the team in the final third. Max Waters, it's great to see. It's really great to see how he's doing. Again, scoring the goals. He's sort of had a stop-start Barnsley career, really, with injuries and things like that. It's been really frustrating for Max, so I'm really happy to see him scoring. And as you mentioned, Davis Keillor-Dunn. I mean, he obviously came with the reputation last season of being able to score goals, being able to set up goals in a team that got promoted from League Two. So I can imagine as a player, it's quite difficult to come to, no disrespect to Mansfield, but a bigger club and have that expectation from the fan base to supply on the pitch instantly. And he's done that, hasn't he? Yeah. He really has done that. He's been fantastic. Man of the match, I think, against Port Vale. And again, like we said, on the score sheet. So he's just going from strength to strength at the moment. And he's a player that not only is he going to bring goals, but he'll improve the rest of them around him as well. Yeah. Just really, really positive.
This weekend marks our annual Remembrance game at Oakwell, which is always a special occasion every year as we remember those who lost their lives fighting for us. The club is working with the community and the armed forces again this year, and joining us this evening on the podcast is Lindsay Smith and Gough Griffiths. Lindsay is known to a lot of you as she runs the Manx Reds away days, but is also heavily involved in the work we do with the armed forces.
Welcome, Lindsay. So can you tell us a little bit about your background of what you do sort of in connection with the club and for the remembrance of our armed soldiers?
Well, to be quite honest, first and foremost, I have no family connection, etc., to the military. It purely started when I was 16, 17 years old, attending the Remembrance Parade at the Town Hall. A couple of older friends of mine went. At that point, it was only sort of 25 of us. Obviously, that has swelled and swelled and swelled. And it's basically, I'm just very, very grateful for what they have gave us and the reason, really, that we're all here sort of functioning, etc. When I retired from being a journalist, I got a pub in my infinite wisdom near the ground, due to being a Barnsley fan, obviously, as well. So my pub is sort of split decor-wise. It's a Barnsley FC pub, but in the other side it is predominantly a military pub. And we try and help and fundraise and facilitate as many events and fundraising activities as we can, just to give back to them what they gave to us.
Yeah, of course, and I was going to touch on that in terms of the things that actually go on and things that you've done over the years. If you want to just talk us through that, basically.
Well, there's many. I mean, we're very fortunate as well over the last 2 or 3 years that we've become home to the Barnsley Armed Forces Veterans Breakfast Club, which takes place every Saturday morning in our establishment. That is basically a social meeting group of people who have served in any branch of the forces, whether that be the Army, the RAF, the Navy, the Marines, etc. Everybody is welcome. It's quite interesting to listen to some of the banter between different forces and different regiments at times. You've sort of got to have a sturdy sense of humour, I would say. But yeah, so that's a great thing that we do to provide for a venue for that. We also, Remembrance Weekend, as you can imagine, is quite a big thing in the pub, gearing up to this weekend. We've obviously got the fixture on Friday, but Remembrance Sunday is a massive, massive day. We do the formalities on a morning, whereby we provide breakfast and we do the toast, pork toast, before going to the town hall. And then in the afternoon, once the formalities are over, they do like to let the hair down a little bit. Can only describe it as quite chaotic at times, but they've had. I'm quite respectful of the fact that a lot may find it quite difficult. It's a difficult time, it's a difficult period, so why not let them let their hair down? I'm quite fortunate that we get a lot of bands that come and play, and they donate their time for free in honour of the armed forces. And what we tend to do is the fee that we would pay them gets donated, usually to the Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal. And then we run football cards for other local military charities, etc. And many things. I mean, I'm obviously involved, or was involved, with the Up and Down fanzine. We've done walks and raised money. The list is endless. I mean, we encourage people with any ideas just to come forward, really.
I mean, that's amazing. It's great to see your efforts, and obviously it's such an important cause and something that I imagine is really close to both of your hearts. How long have you actually been supporting the club's effort to support the armed forces?
The club's effort? At least 12, maybe longer, 12, 15 years. Yes. We made contact because basically what we've done for years and years is the mayor attends a home match as near the 11th of November as he can. Mm-hmm. And we've always come down and presented the mayor and been allowed on the pitch, believe it or not, mm-hmm. Yes, to present him with his first poppy officially. Oh. So it's been a joint event there, yeah. But obviously there's been a little bit of the ceremonial involved because the club itself has wreaths and lays wreaths in the centre circle to start with, and then they're taken and put on various areas around the ground.
Brilliant. And what got you into doing this? Kind of what's your connection to Remembrance Day and remembering our armed forces?
Well, my connection with Remembrance Day is the Royal British Legion. That's how, and unfortunately, I got, and the term was persuaded to be a volunteer. I had just about retired as my son-in-law persuaded me that his next-door neighbour ran this particular branch of the Churchfield branch of the Royal British Legion, and he was looking for volunteers. So we ended up starting selling poppies, and then you get hooked because of the comradeship, the friendship, the banter, all the torment that goes on. It's all part and parcel of it, and believe you me, once you join all these military associations, because we work with a lot of them, not local ones, obviously, as well as our national does the others, but once you become involved, you have a huge bunch of friends that you can rely on to torment hell out of you, because you're going to get them back.
So, Gough, as I understand, you are the president of the local branch of the Royal British Legion. Just tell us a bit more about that and the things that you do sort of more often and maybe on a day-to-day basis even.
We do have the Churchfield branch itself. When I first joined the borough, there were 19 village branches. There are now 7. It's dropped backwards because, unfortunately, us geriatrics are getting a bit older. So obviously we are looking for young volunteers all the time to come and join us. And this is, as I started out as a basic poppy seller and then gradually got more and more involved. So I gradually moved through the ranks, as they do in the army, just the same. Through the ranks, I became involved with the poppy appeal itself, and I ran the poppy appeal, and because of the branches that were closing, we covered 90% of the Barnsley area from one branch. Now we've got a few more branches to come back. It's taken some of the pressures off. And at the same time, I got moved up to be chairman, and then because our president died 2 years ago, I was moved up to become president. The only thing I'm not allowed officially to do is speak at the meetings, but it's very, very difficult not to.
Well, you are allowed to speak today, and we've absolutely loved chatting away to you. I think what you said about the community feel to the organisation is really important. What else do you really enjoy about, being part of this? Lindsay, I'll ask you that as well.
as part of just dealing with the veterans and people like golf and things like that in general.
Absolutely.
I think, to be quite honest, is it the nail on the head? As I mentioned earlier, some of the banter, etc., is just quite fantastic at times. I volunteer myself to help Gough sell the poppies in the town centre. But I think the other thing for me is what we've done in the pub, and which I'm quite proud of, is a lot of veterans struggle, which I don't think is widely documented enough. And we've created a little bit of a safe space, so to speak. People have got used to myself, and they've got used to speaking with other veterans. And, you know, I've seen some people who you would probably look at and think, you know, he's the hardest man in the world. And you just don't realise what's behind people's eyes. And we've got a space now where people are starting to open up. Albeit probably never will be able to do that fully in such a place, but there's obviously networks of more, I think more and more support is becoming available. But even if we can just provide that little bit of a social hub whereby they're not, you know, sort of pressured into being on a one-on-one with like a counsellor or something like that, what I've found is they find it a lot easier to talk to one another than to anybody else. And if we can just provide that just for a second, and one person feels a bit better for that, then I think that's we've done a little bit. We'll never do enough. People should do more. I'd like to encourage people to do more. Without getting political, there should 100% be lots more in place as a country to help our veterans that's coming home, and these veterans that have been home a while, that are struggling daily, and need people like us to try and help.
No, absolutely. You make a great point there, and it's something I want to speak about, actually. Obviously, Remembrance Sunday, this whole sort of period of remembrance, it's important to remember those that have lost their lives in the past. But as you say, it's imperative to even remember the ones that have served time for our country and still, thankfully, with us today, but as you say, are still suffering. And the whole sort of experience, it goes without saying, of course it does, but it's important to reiterate that message of just how important this time of year really is. Yeah,
like I say, I can only offer an ear. I can never, ever fully understand what people have gone through. I can't, unless you've been in that position. And I've spoken to many, many veterans now over a period of time. I find it quite gratifying that some feel comfortable enough to talk, even if it's just a little bit to myself. But I find it even more gratifying when I can see two veterans that obviously have struggled, developing a friendship and a bond and talking about things with each other. And if that, again, helps, that's great. I mean, I've had a few instances on Remembrance Sunday when there's been quite upsetting episodes when it's got a little bit too much for some people, and the camaraderie between all the veterans that come together, and I can only comment on my basis. Sorry.
Go on, Lindsay, breathe.
Yeah, sorry.
Dare you?
The camaraderie between them.
Sorry.
Even if they've only met on that day, you know, if someone is struggling, they put an hand on each other's shoulder. I watched two gents last year, perfect example. A young man that had served in Afghanistan, 3 tours of Afghanistan. He was only 36, done 3 tours. His friend unfortunately got killed 8 weeks into being out there. He had to go back to the same place twice after that. And he just was in absolute disarray on that day. And a guy that served over there at the same time, they'd never met, managed to just sort of pull him out of that, and it was quite astounding to watch, to be quite honest, just by how he spoke to him, because he got it.
I don't know whether as a whole that this is just relative to Barnsley. We are extremely lucky as a town that we have huge links with so many companies, the Mayor's office, the Lord Lieutenant's office, all of these, and they all, councillors, they all help us with different projects, different things that we do, And during the poppy appeal, they'll come and stand on the stalls for us. The companies allow their employees so many volunteer hours a year to come and stand on the stall. So we get a lot out of this.
So, of course, we've got our own events running at the club on Friday. But, Goff, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the community that people can get involved in?
By all means. The community itself, believe it or not, has events organised. We're doing Barnsley College, we're doing Darfield Road Workingmen's Club, who run an evening for the parachute regiment, and there's a full ceremonial done with buglers and all the treatment. And the thing is, with all of these events that go on, you do not have to be military to attend. You don't have to be military to belong to the Royal British Legion, for example. You can come as a volunteer, you can come as a lay person, as long as you've got an interest. And once we've got you in, then it starts to build, because you start making the friends. And it's the help that we give to people to come to that really is important. And the fact that we always do this ceremonial with the last post and so on, the exhortation, the kohima, all of that's done because it triggers memories and remembrance. And it's the remembrance, really, that is very important, that we always remember, even those that are out there now and doing things for us. So it's very, very important on that footing.
We're also thrilled to be joined on the podcast by Paul Goose, who is himself a bugler. So, Paul, just tell us a bit about your background.
Well, I joined Army in 1989 as an adult soldier. I'd already learned to play the bugle before I joined regular Army. And I did my adult training before I went out to Berlin to join 1st Battalion Light Infantry, and went straight into bugle platoon with my elder brother, as he was a bugler as well. So there were two of us that were buglers, and we taught buglers as well, you know. So, but yeah, it's been a journey, you know, playing in front of royalty, and the remembrance parades that you do is phenomenal, you know. It's really, you just can't put how many you've done on it. You know, it's absolutely brilliant when you see people's faces when you play the last post. You know, it's really good, really is.
So before you both leave, a quick prediction for Friday night's game. What do you think the score will be?
3-1 to Tarn.
Which is exactly what I was going to say, but he's pinched it. So I'll go for. I'll be frivolous, 4-1.
We're happy with either of those.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. So, for the next part of the Oakwell update, we can now switch over to Tim Hadfield, who runs the X and Meta account Barnsley FC on this day. Tim spoke to us about Wilf Bartrop, a former Barnsley player who sadly passed away during the First World War.
Wilf was born in Worksop on the 22nd of November 1887. He started his footballing career with his hometown team, Worksop Town, which incidentally was formed in 1861, 17 years before Barnsley St Peters, making it the fourth oldest association football club in the world. With his reputation as a fine footballer going, Barnsley moved to sign him in June 1909 for the fee of £25. He became a first-team regular straight away, playing 34 of the 38 league games in his first season in 1909 and 10. He also played in every round as Barnsley got to the FA Cup final. Indeed, he scored the only goal, described in the press as a wonder goal, in the 1-0 win against Queen's Park Rangers in the quarter-final. As we know, Barnsley lost in 1910 to Newcastle United in a replay after the first game was drawn 1-1. But he and the team were back in the final 2 years later in 1912, when he was again ever present in the cup run. It went to a replay again, and this time a Harry Tufnell goal won the game 1-0 against West Bromwich Albion and brought the FA Cup to Oakwell for the very first time.
Early today, we caught up with the man of the moment, Davis Keillor-Dunn, in our Oakwell Update exclusive. Here's what he had to say.
Davo, building up to Rotherham United on Friday night, back at Oakwell, South Yorkshire Derby, always a little bit more to those kinds of games. I imagine you and the lads are really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good result in the Cup, and we just want to improve on that and keep building and keep the momentum. We've been doing quite well in the league as well. And just keep playing good stuff, and yeah, ultimately try and win the game.
You mentioned momentum there. What has sort of caused this turnaround in form? Really positive performances, positive results, as you touched on, seem to come after the international break. What is it that's caused that?
A lot of hard work, confidence, relationships on the pitch starting to form. A lot of things, I think that we've got a good group there, and I think it was a matter of time before we started to gel. And yeah, look, we're seeing some good signs, and hopefully we can keep that going.
And playing Rotherham, as we mentioned this Friday, a team that have brought a lot of players in the summer, just come down from League One, obviously want to get back to the Championship. Their league table position probably suggests they've had a tough start to the season, but they've got the players and the quality, haven't they, to sort of punish us if we're not on our game.
Definitely. Look, I think it's only 5 points to behind us, and they've got a good side with some good players in there, and it's that little bit of bite in these games. It's probably going to be a tough game. They're going to bring their A game, and look, we'll be ready for it, and we'll be looking to attack the game and get off to a quick start. And we're really looking forward to it. And like you say, you got to give them respect, but ultimately we're at home and we want to be winning.
How would you sort of assess your start at Barnsley? Because always can be difficult joining late on. You sort of thrown straight into the mix. That might help you. I don't know. It's different people for different people. Sorry, but just for you, how would you assess your start to your Barnsley career?
I really enjoyed it. I came in, scored on my debut, which was really nice, and then we took a few games, and there was a few bits to it where we were probably trying to create things and trying to gel early doors, and I think it took a couple of games, and then see I've got 3 and 4 in my last few games, so I'm really looking forward to getting going, and the game's coming up thick and fast. I believe the Cambridge game is still going ahead, so yeah, look, I'm just looking to get on the score sheet and try and affect games as much as I can and get points on the board for us.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that in the last few games, as you've just touched on, and also your position on the pitch. It seems since the break that you've been sort of dropping deeper and sort of really been a key focal point of our sort of attacking patterns. Just touch on your favoured position and just a little recap of your career as in terms of where you've played on the pitch and where you feel you're most effective. Yeah,
I probably feel the number 10 role, maybe off 2 strikers, or dropping in like the attacking midfield role type thing, so I can get on the ball and drive with it. But I love playing up top as well, so if it means I need to do a job up top and still drop in, I love doing that as well. So I just want to be versatile and give the gaffer a few options and let him choose where I feel he feels I'm more effective. So yeah. And
you mentioned building relationships. We saw the iconic swimming celebration with Humps after your goal, or was it his goal? I think it was
my goal.
Yeah, your goal. and in terms of just mentioned there about your sort of attacking patterns, do you really now feel that you've started to really bond with lads in the squad? I know you're obviously good friends with Corey before coming here as well. So just tell us a little bit more about the relationships you've built in the squad.
Yeah, I think it's key, to have squad depth. I mean, we've got quality in all the areas, but like I touched on, the patterns we've got to play on a Saturday and midweek, we've got to be creating those sort of 1v1s and 2v1s and all these situations what we want to get in. But yeah, I think it's just confidence, and whoever plays, whoever's chose, whoever's picked, needs to perform. We're at a big club, and we need to perform most weeks. But yeah, like you say, the patterns and the partnerships on the pitch is really shown, and hopefully we can keep going.
And in terms of the standard this season, you of course were part of a very successful Mansfield side last season that sort of got promoted from League Two. Have you found a difference in quality, a notable difference from that sort of promotion?
Yeah. There's quality in both the leagues, and I feel it was a good season last year with Mansfield, and I wanted to come here and replicate that. And I keep saying to the boys, a double promotion is what I come for. So let's get going, and they're on board with that as well. So yeah, there's quality in both the leagues, and hopefully we can just bring more of that this year and end up in the promotion places.
It's Mansfield, isn't it, that's the link between you and Corey, not of a club but probably the place. Just tell us a little bit more about your car school, I think you've called it.
Yeah, well, I think he's Birmingham, and in between Birmingham and Barnsley is Nottingham, and obviously I lived in Nottingham when I was at Mansfield, so I'm still there and we live on the same estate. So yeah, when I was signing, he was saying, "What's happening? Hurry up, get yourself here." So the car school's brilliant. There's a coffee every morning, and yeah, it just helps you on the way to work. You've got your teammate in the car, and like you say, it builds relationships on the pitch as well.
And you've had a new addition off the pitch as well with your newborn child. How has that been, sort of balancing new club, new area, and then also now a new child?
Yeah, they say it's the hardest job in the world, and they're not wrong when they say that. But to be honest, my missus has been fantastic with me. She's let me stay in the spare room, even on training nights. On days off, I'll do the night feeds and stuff, but I'll just try and help out as much as I can. But she ultimately realises there's big demands here and big demands on my body as well, so she understands that, and I can't thank her enough for being understanding and letting me just apply my trade.
Yeah, we've seen your partner sort of document your journey here on TikTok as well. You know, she's made videos about how it has been sort of with a footballer and balancing that. How important is that sort of network at home when you are playing at this elite level? Especially
like your family. I think my girlfriend's really on board with it, and my family's really on board with it. My mum and dad, my brother come to all the games, and that's a big thing for me when I sign for a club. I want to be here for a long time, and I want to do successful things here. So it's not just one of these where I see it as like a quick thing or a platform for somewhere else. I want to be here and really implementing what I do on the club and really get a rapport with the fans. And look, yeah, hopefully it's a long-term thing, and we're on a long-term project as a club to really push on and go places.
You as a person and a family, seeing on social media, the backing they give you, seem like a sort of a unit that really care about football. And you've obviously come from Sunderland, which is a football mad city, and that area is just crazy for football. Just is that true? Is it really there's a real care about who you're playing for and your football?
Definitely. Every single person in that area of the country just lives for a weekend or a Tuesday night in the EFL. You've just got football, and that's all I've been brought up on. My dad was a footballer as well. So it's amazing to follow in his footsteps, and he comes to all the games now, and he's 72 now, so he's getting older, but he just loves it. He loves coming there, he loves the atmosphere, and it's such a good club. You've got the hospitality side of things is brilliant, and obviously with the baby and stuff, you've got the indoor option if you want to watch the game from indoor, and it's brilliant. It's such a good club, and it's not too far away from home as well, so yeah, I'm settling in really well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And in terms of just sort of, we started the interview about the momentum and sort of the recent form. Really good chances in it now on Friday night to sort of continue that, because the place will be packed out. The sort of league position will look a lot healthier once, if we get those 3 points on Friday night.
Yeah, the gaffer's always expressing that you've got to have your home form really on point, make this place a fortress, and that's what the boys are working hard to do. We know it's going to be a tough game, but we've got to be confident. I always say that to the lads: stay confident and believe in our abilities. And yeah, I think if you go into the game confident, you've got a really good chance.
Really excellent to hear from DKD. It's good to see that other side of the game, isn't it? He's supplying on the pitch, but it's really great to see that insight and just find out maybe a little bit more about him.
Absolutely, and he sounded really confident looking ahead to Friday's game. So let's have a little bit of a look at the stats. So previous results show that we have had some success against our local rivals. 54 games, 23 wins, 14 draws and 17 losses. Callum, how do you see it going?
Well, look, a local derby is always going to be a difficult one, of course. Rotherham, their particular form at this moment in time isn't the best. They're not in the greatest spell of form, and they'll obviously admit that themselves. But I think you can always expect, particularly in this division, a side managed by Steve Evans. He knows how to manage a side. He was obviously at Stevenage last season, and they were a very, very difficult physical team to play against. And that's pretty much what you are going to get. You know exactly what you're going to get, but that doesn't make it any easier whatsoever. It's always going to be a difficult game. And like I said, a local derby always adds the stakes, raises the pressure. So I don't think it's by no means whatsoever going to be an easy game for Barnsley. You know, a neutral could look at the form table and compare the two sides and think that it's a little bit different, but I don't think it's going to be that whatsoever. It's going to be very tight and really sort of hotly contested. So Barnsley have absolutely got to come and play their best game, really, of course. And we've said it so many times on the podcast, but it is absolutely true. There is no easy games in this division, whether it's Shrewsbury away, playing a team in the relegation zone, or a local derby here on a Friday night under the lights at Oakwell. It's always going to be difficult. Rotherham, they were tipped to do really well this season and signed a lot of sort of experienced players in the summer transfer window, got a lot of their business done early on free agents, and a lot of people looked at that as really promising business, and they were putting together a side that, like I said, has that experience, the know-how of getting out of the division, and some quality players. And I think there's definitely that core to this team. For whatever reason, it's just not quite working for them at the moment. It's just not quite gelling. But I think long term, they're only going to get better, of course, and hopefully that's not going to be the case on Friday. And I think I am confident. I'm quietly confident, of course, that Barnsley will be able to overcome anything that Rotherham can sort of fetch our way. I think the way the Reds are playing at the moment, the confidence that's brewing ever since that turn of the international break, to be honest, whatever's been done on the training ground amongst the coaching staff with the players, it has really made that massive difference. It's been imperative, to be honest, because the performances have been fantastic, and building on the victories as well. You know, the FA Cup one, yeah, although it's not in the league, that's really important to keep morale high, keep the team spirit high, the confidence up, and like we've already said this week, you know, goals from all over the team, everybody chipping in at any given moment in a tight game like a derby, for example, that you're expecting it to be a tight game. You're going to need someone to pluck something out of the air. You're going to need an individual moment of brilliance. You're going to need a header from a corner, for example. And we've got that in the team. We've got it in abundance. So, yeah, I am confident. We'll obviously see how it goes. It's in a game like this, it's whoever wants it more on the day. It's whoever turns up more on the day. It's cliche, but it's absolutely the case in a game like this. And hopefully, it's going to be that of Barnsley.
And, of course, we asked Lindsay and Paul earlier for some score predictions. But it only seems right that we do our, weekly podcast score predictions. So, what do you think for Friday? What's your kind of inkling saying? Yeah,
well, you mentioned the stats earlier, and one of those victories we got at Oakwell in 2016, it was 4-0, and the likes of Conor Hourihane was playing, Mark Roberts as well, who's obviously back in a Barnsley shirt. I don't necessarily think it's going to be as high scoring as that one. I'd love it to be. I'd love it to be double that in Barnsley's favour, of course, but I think it's going to be a little bit tighter, but I am going to go with 3-1 Barnsley, I think.
I think I'm going to go with 2-1. And hopefully, not for another week, you're going to be right.
Well, I did just want to mention that I have got the last two correct. So
I know.
On this imaginary league table that we've got, I am at the top. I just want to say that.
Well, that's all we have time for. So go well, Reds, and we will see you under the lights.